Um, when you look at the aftermath of the elections in Guyana, there were a few things that were profound, historical, and and those things are the seats that were allotted in Parliament. For instance, the PPP got 36 seats. The Win Party got 16 seats. The ENU Party got 12 seats. And FGM got 1 seat. What's historical about this is since the inception of the PNC party, this has never occurred where they lost so many seats. What's your reaction, and what's the path forward for the country? I see we have Mr. London here as well.
We'll need at least an hour to talk about path forward. So I'm going to leave path forward for another occasion. But in terms of historical outcomes, there are several striking historical outcomes. You refer to the loss of seats by the PNC, which is a significant reality. But perhaps more significant than the loss of seat is the status of the PNC as the core element of the APNU. You know, the PNC goes back to the 1950s, and it is the first time in Guyana's electoral history that the PNC is neither in the driving seat or in the opposition. For much of Guyana's history, the PNC featured either by itself or in combination with others, being the APNU plus AFC, either in the driving seat as running the government or leading the opposition. This is a first. It is not in the government and performs so badly that it is not in the opposition. And that should give cause for a lot of conversation and reflections by people not only in the PNC about what going forward might be needed for the PNC if you think of a democracy being an essential part of the governance landscape of Guyana. If you think of the disquiet caused by one party being so superordinate that it can drive things the way it wants, you got to have a conversation about how might Guyana's democracy be helped by efforts to not demolish the PNC entirely. Here's another significant historical reality. And it's a harsh reality that much of the country's political history seen the enterprise, the effect of race in politics. We may not be sounding the alarm of the end of racial politics, but it was, I think, a notable departure in these elections, and I'd welcome hearing other people on this point, that there didn't seem to be an alignment of race and politics in the voting, that many Afro-Guyanese moved to win. Many Afro-Guyanese political leaders moved to the PPPC. So I think the issue of race and racial voting, there's an indication that there may be some positive going forward in that the close alignment of race and voting seems to have taken at least a pause. I'll stop there for the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith. Welcome in, Mr. Nigel London. How are you this morning? And congratulations are in order. 2 months with lack of resources, and you guys were able to get a seat in parliament. That is huge.
Greetings to you, of course, and to your most esteemed guest panelist. I'm certainly grateful to be here. Thank you for the congratulatory sentiments. And indeed, as one European Union observer would have said, that as a political scientist with many years of experience, she's never seen the likes of a Ford Ghana movement underfunded, in many cases, or every case, shut out of state media, and still we've been able to have thousands of persons supporting us. That in itself speaks volumes to what I think the Guyanese minds are now tuned to and geared towards, and hopefully that is real change.
I would like you to just for a quick moment, as you know, a good professor that's kind of laid out. What's most profound to all of us is the loss of seats by the APNU party. You know, it's the most since the inception of the PNC party. Parliament is going to look very different this year. Can you speak to that? We have 36 seats for the PPP. We have 16 seats for the opposition in the Win Party, and then we have 12 seats for the APNU party, and of course FGM with 1 seat.
I did say that this would be a very quite interesting electoral cycle, and that the results would be also more interesting, and it's happened to prove to be true. It's unusual. However, there's still the lack of confidence in the results, and I think that that is important for us to have clarity on. So persons are yet to grapple with the idea that in the worst of times under the PPP, they perform the best. That is unusual. It is critical to analyze it and interrogate the circumstances surrounding that, because there were so many negatives. Adriana Young, 20 children burned alive in Mahdia, and all these cases, there was no justice served. So many incidents, so many persons would have come forward. The last one being one who's sworn by affidavit that he was involved in gold smuggling and representing other parties, and still the PP said to us that persons chose overwhelmingly to vote in their favor. So that reality is still has a dark cloud over our nation. On the other side, the APNU, as I would have also said, took the electorate for granted. Throughout my interaction with political leaders and seeking to have a coalition of sort that was really viable and truthful in its nature, I spoke to us never taking the electorate for granted. Once you look at people and say that you always have to do something, then you're playing with trouble. Especially since 67% or more of this electoral demographic represented Gen Zs, as we call them, a little older than that, the Y and Z. So someone 40 years and 18 to 40 would not be inclined to be disrespected. And I warned many leaders that we cannot take people for granted. Do not assume that there's any support base here, that you have to vote in a particular manner. And so that reality, I think, has now hit home for the APNU. And hopefully, what I love is the fact that the opposition is truly in a position where it has to combine. We have to work together, and then we all have to have the same experience, whereby we know that the PPP would not be likely to respect and value the opinion of others, which would be maybe a good thing in this case, because Guyanese will be able to see exactly what happens when you choose to deal with those who are disingenuous, corrupt, and in many instances just disregarding of the law. But I must say, sir, that it is not just Guyanese, because this election outcome would have been determined by so many other nationalities that it's truly historic in its nature. And that has to be addressed and also interrogated.
Nigel, what is the path forward?
I love that question. The path forward is for us to, especially on Ford Ghana movement side, to really encourage Guyanese to understand the power you possess. Once you get to the place psychologically mentally, that you understand as a people how much power you have, then it does not matter how many seats the PPP has, how many seats the PNC has, or anything of that nature. It's how much power people know they have. And we want to encourage Guyanese to exercise your power, even on the streets of this nation, in peaceful protests, of course, but in significant numbers, so that everyone to know that if anyone seeks to undermine the integrity of our Constitution again, or seek to harass, bully, and intimidate us, we shall not be accepting it. So we have to be vigilant going forward. We must be willing, of course, to cooperate and to encourage inclusive governance, because there's no better way to demonstrate now than to have four parties, four separate entities in the House of Assembly being able to work together. That the PP has a perfect opportunity now to show whether they're truly about nation building or building friends and families and cronies.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigel. Right now, we'd like to welcome in Mansa Walton Desir. Good morning, Mansa, and welcome in. First and foremost, congratulations. Like I just mentioned to Nigel, 2 months out, lack of resources, and being able to get a seat in Parliament, that speaks volumes. I've said this before, I'm always bipartisan here, but in my opinion, when you talk about messaging, I thought the messaging from the FGM campaign was second to none. And I just want to commend you guys for that. Audience, once again, this is a bipartisan platform. I invited candidates from APNU and PPP, and I guess they weren't able to join today because we wanted to just bring all the information to the audience. So, Amanzo, what's the path forward for Guyana? You now have a seat in Parliament, and Parliament is going to look quite different with the PPP having 36 seats, Win 16, APNU 12, and your party having one seat. How do you see Guyana going forward?
Thank you for that, JR, and thank you for having me. Hey, Nigel. Hi, Professor. It's always good to see you. Thanks. I think it's the beginning of what we envision for Parliament and for Guyana, where we have to work together. Now, that is going to be happening in the opposition benches for now, but come 2030, I think we're going to see the people of Guyana demanding more. Constitutional reform has always been something that has been kicked down the road and not taken seriously. And our challenge to the people of Guyana was that, listen, you are going to have to force us as your leaders to reform the Constitution. You are going to have to force us to sit and to speak to each other, because unfortunately, the last 50 years have not, yielded desirable results. And so we have to be able to change the way we're operating. And it appears as though the people of Guyana are ready for that conversation. We are deeply concerned, and we will be interrogating the results of these elections because, as Nigel alluded to, for the first time, we've had a number of non-Guyanese, of Commonwealth citizens, etc., participating in these elections. And when you understand the margins of our elections, you understand that 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 persons can skew an election in various ways. So we're excited about what the future holds. It is going to be grueling work. Like I always say to people, if you're serious about what you're doing in terms of governance, it's hard work. And so we look forward to the hard work because we've never been afraid of rolling up our sleeves.
Thank you, Amanza. Don't go anywhere. We're being joined by the broadcast journalist Enrico Wolford. Good morning. Welcome to the Reset Talk Show. Enrico, how are you?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Nigel. Good morning, Professor. Good morning, GR. I'm
Morning,
doing fine,
Enrico.
thanks.
Enrico, here we are. This is proven to be a very historic election. When we look at the seats allocated, we see the PPP with 36 seats, the Win Party with 16, APNU with 12, and of course the For Guyana Movement with 1. What's profound here is the amount of seats that the APNU has lost. Do you see a reset and for the APNU party, and how do you see Guyana moving forward?
Well, I believe that Guyana has to work on this whole idea of uh, ethnic politics, um, and the fact that there are people who may traditionally belong to one party who, because of ethnicity, may decide to move to another party. And you also have to take it into account from the point of view that there are people who are within one party based on ethnicity who do not want to move and have not traditionally moved into other parties. Not since I think the late 1970s, when you had the defection of persons like Randy Chandy Singh, Vincent Tika, even Halim Majid, who now serves as Guyana's ambassador to Cuba, and others, Harry Lal and those. You never had a movement from the old party that I like to call one of the behemoths, the PPP, into other parties. And even if you say that with regard to Moses Nagamotu moving or Kemraj Ramjatan in terms of recent political history, it, w- it was not as impactful as what happened in the late 70s. Now, what has happened here is that persons from the PNC or traditionally PNC people move into other parties rather seamlessly, and I think because of that, one has to look at at the situation a little differently and decide how you will deal with politics going forward.
Thank you, Enrico. Professor, we have broadcast journalist Enrico here. We have Amanda of the For Guyana Movement and Nigel London. Audience, if you're just joining us, we're having a conversation around the aftermath of the 2025 general elections. Go ahead, Professor Griffith.
Well, let me begin, GR, by commending Amanda and Nigel and people in her party for the success in getting to Parliament. But I also want to note that one of the footnotes of history of these elections, is not only the significant decline of the PNC, the core element of the APNU, but the decline of other established parties and the rise of recent parties like Amanza's party. Amanza's party, so successful in getting one seat, a foot in the door, whereas a party like the AFC did not even get a seat in the door. So there is something to be said, not only for reflection on the part of people in the APNU, PNC, but the AFC would also need to do some reflections. Let me make one other point. I think it's a sign of significant maturity when I read with such pleasure something that Amanda said a week or so ago, that she's going to be significantly embracing the opportunity to make a difference, be positive. This is a time for all people in Parliament, whether you did significantly better than you did before or did worse. You've got an opportunity to make a difference given where you are. But I have a reason to have some trepidation about the size of the victory by the PPC. And I'm going to write some of this up in my analysis that I'll be doing for a British journal and for the Ward Post. It's not only who is in the executive branch, but it's the manner in which the party in the executive conducts itself in the legislature. And if you take a look back at the 2020-2025 rulership landscape, people like myself who are political scientists, who are Guyanese, had many occasions to say, boy, it would have been much better for the ruling party and the Speaker of the House to do some things differently. If you have just one seat advantage and you behave with such in such a autocratic way in some occasions, and I'm thinking most recently of the May legislation on oil spill. If you can do that with one seat, I worry that with additional seats, now you've got 36. Are you likely to have that kind of arrogance going forward? Or will you allow the maturity to say, you've got 36, but there are 29 others representing significant parts of the polity? So that is my anxiety. Will we have the kind of maturity which will enhance the democracy? Or will we have a certain kind of practice reminiscent of practices of the past?
Uh, Dr. Griffith, I love the way you encapsulate all of that. What would you like to ask Nigel or Amanza as they're a big part of the progression of Guyana right now?
But my question to Amanza and Nigel is the following. What will you do to ensure that your party is strengthened in its ability to debate and discuss and make an impact on the issues at hand for Guyana? Let me tell you what I see as some of the 2 or 3 most clear and present danger issues. The 2016 production sharing agreement is going to be coming to an end soon, 2026, early 2027. The conversation has to be begun now about the new contract, the new PSA. Yes, there's a draft in 2023, but there's an opportunity to refine that draft to be different. I'd welcome hearing what might be the Amanza party's position on the oil contract. That is a clear and present issue going forward. But for me, a second almost existential issue is the issue of climate change. You've got an existential threat to the Atlantic coast, where 80% of Guyanese live. The global warming is leading to the rising sea level. And as I see in a book that I wrote a couple of months ago, hopefully Amanza and Nigel will buy copies and give to the constituents. Silica City is nice, but it's not going to save Georgetown if the Atlantic Ocean comes over. So I think climate change is another big issue for all parliamentarians to be worried about. And then there is this, what I call the challenge on the Western Front, Venezuela. Yes, we know the strong support by the United States for Guyana, but that Venezuela claim is still a kind of an albatross. And so I think that also has to be an issue on the front burner of all parties. I'd welcome hearing what Amanza and Nigel have in mind for some of those issues, and Enrico, of course.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Professor. As it relates to the PSA, I think one of the things, well, not I think, I know one of the things that we're going to be advocating for is for the committees of parliament to meet. It is very, very important for us that we allow the people of Guyana to have a say. And there are a number of committees and particularly one, the Natural Resources Committee, that we will be pushing to have them meet, because it is important that the people of Guyana are able to have an input. And the configuration of those committees mean that people could be, public calls could be issued, presentations could be made, so that Guyanese feel a part of the process. We will be holding the Irfan Ali led administration to account, because he stood at his inauguration and promised a Guyana for all Guyanese where input is going to be honored. And so we're going to hold him to that. So I believe a key component of making sure that Guyanese feel a part of this new PSA is to convene that Natural Resources Committee and invite experts and Guyanese environmentalists, all of the subject matter experts to really weigh in and have an input. That also would be important as it relates to tackling the Guyana Venezuela issue. Because, for the life of the last parliament, I have spoken that I was red in the face about the inability of the Foreign Relations Sectoral Committee to meet. That is intended to be a bipartisan committee. And I keep making the point that the key to us effectively dealing with the challenge on our Western Front is a national unified approach to it. So far, Irfan Ali and his administration have sought to have an approach where they ignore what the opposition says, and then when it gets to a boiling point, they come and they ask for support. And they do not understand that that approach undermines the spirit of national unity that is required. And so it is untenable that we will continue along that front. The other issue that we have is that we have in excess of now, we would estimate 130,000 to 150,000 Venezuelans in Guyana. And from a national security perspective, you understand that the deliberate injection of population into our country could be a tool of warfare that Maduro continues to use. But this PPPC government has opened the floodgates, and so we have the clear and present danger of being undermined from within. We observe the geopolitical winds that are converging now, um, particularly given the military maneuvers in the Atlantic. And so Guyana will have to depend on a combination of a national unity approach. They'll have to depend on a very shrewd diplomatic cadre, which I'm afraid we do not have at the moment. And we are going to have to continue to build relationships with our allies. And so, certainly, from the point of our party, these are some of the things that we're going to be advocating on, leading the way, putting out policy positions on, because we feel very strongly about that. On the third issue, in terms of the challenge that climate change poses, it has been something that I've spoken about constantly for the last 5 years. We keep building infrastructure, and we are not putting into that infrastructure the climate resilience features that we need. So we're building roads, but the soakaways and the drainage, etc., is non-existent. You look at the newly constructed Linden Highway, if it rains, Nigel, who lives in Linden for most of the time, will tell you that there's 2 to 3 inches of water that you have to wade through. So our approach to infrastructure development completely ignores the need for climate resilience. And so we're vulnerable. And finally, our vulnerability in terms of our climate defense is also migrating to becoming a national security issue. And as and as an expert on that, Professor Griffith, I will not expound on that more, but I will say that we are aware of the vulnerability of our sea defense infrastructure. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is advocating very heavily. We are proud that for the last few years, we have been saying and guiding Guyanese to look for these types of things. And whilst it is grieving that some of the things that we've predicted have actually happened. Commonwealth citizens have come in and they voted and have undermined the will of actual Guyanese citizens, etc. We forewarned about all of these things. We do not take pleasure in the fact that they've happened, because the effects we have to live with. But certainly, this is the beginning for us. You're going to be seeing a lot more. Um, One of the things that I want to add will be first and foremost on our agenda is electoral reform. GCOM is no longer useful in its current configuration. And so it has to be reformed. As of right now, the configuration of GCOM does not reflect the political reality. There are three political parties in opposition. Who are our commissioners? So there's a lot that we will have to unpack in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Amanda.
And
Before you go, jump in, Dr. Griffith, audience, tell a friend to tell a friend. We have For Guyana Movement party on our platform today. They're unpacking the path forward for Guyana, some of the things that they will try to bring to the table as being in Parliament. Please join us. Go ahead, Nigel, you were about to say something.
thank you so much. And I really love the questions asked by Professor Griffith. My degree is in environmental sciences. And for years, since 1995 and beyond, we've been discussing sea level and the implications of that rise. The sad reality for Guyanese is that we don't have control over the cause of it, but we have to deal with the reality of it. And one I know long term but realistic approach would be to encourage population shifting. I think that's just begun to happen. Where persons are moving to, of course, Region 10, for example, is found in the hilly sand and clay belt region. So if you're able to attract people to move away from the coast, have a lot more housing, have added cities in these areas and so on, that population pull factor may help us to mitigate the price we pay in reference to the human lives that would be lost should any tragedy strike us in reference to a significant rise or breakage of the seawall, sea defense structures. So that is one area I think it requires serious consideration, and that's why we have said that there's a reason we have a University of Guyana with a faculty of technology. We have youth in there, minds in there that are capable of in my view, in our view, arriving at very, very ingenious ideas to how you're going to strengthen the coastline, but the defense. But more than that, how are we able to create structures and so on away from the coast to attract people? That is a reality that we have to face. We must come to grips with. We cannot fight nature sometimes and win. More often than not, you lose. So what do we do to attract persons away from the coastline? What incentives are there? They did it in Texas in reference to saying, listen, if you come here, we'll give you land, we'll give you agriculture machinery and so on, and people went. There's a pull factor involved. Maybe we could explore that. Of course, a man who has spoken so aptly to the other two that I do not need to touch on them.
Thank you, Nigel. Welcome back in, Enrico. Enrico, in answering Dr. Griffith's question, you're a journalist, you're on the ground in Guyana. What is the temperature like among the Guyanese citizens as far as the path forward with climate change and oil and climate change in that order?
I think people are more concerned about the oil than climate change, to be quite frank. And I'm not always on the ground there. I just touch and go sometimes. But I think from the issues that Professor raised, the one that hits Guyanese a lot more would be what is it Guyana is getting from the oil sector. And that's just as a journalist speaking here. In terms of climate change, that is why I think it is important for Guyana to have more meaningful consultations. Now that you have three parties in opposition, and you have the ruling party in government, there needs to be a lot more consensus, a lot more consultation, so that as a country, we can come together and say this is the way forward. Doesn't matter who takes over the um, the reins of government in another 10 years, in another 15 years, or what have you. How do we manage water management, for example? If I can, if I can use two words together, how do we manage our mangroves? How do we manage our beaches? How do we manage uh, in the interior of the country, a particular region of Ghana at a particular time always has a flooding. How do we manage that? Uh, the government on its own can't have all the answers and shouldn't have all the answers. I think there needs to be consensus and there needs to be a meeting of the minds on those stories, particularly water management. I'm always concerned about that. We look, we're I grew up in Kingston, where GCOM is, and as a child, the gutters, the drains were clear, so much so that we would race paper boats in the drains. I went back there to be the lead for Transparency International Observer Mission, and almost all of the gutters near the area where I live, where GCOM is, are silted out. I went to Fort Groin, and the amount of trash that you see. These are little things that can be solved in the country, and these little things, as Ian MacDonald always says, those little things matter to citizens. But if we think they don't matter, and you know we believe in building bridges and and putting up fancy buildings and so on, then we can go the way of Nepal, and hopefully we don't go the way of Nauru, and hopefully we don't go the way of Nepal.
Thank you for that, Enrico. We're running out of time. My question to you, Enrico, to you, Nigel, and to Amanza, post-elections, let's talk about the Guyanese citizens again. What's the feel that you get from them? Are they excited? Are people not concerned about who is leading the country? What is the number one thing that jumps out at you guys in the aftermath of this election, coming from the Guyanese citizens? You could lead, Enrico, and then Amanda and I go. We only have 2 minutes each.
What jumps out at me right away, as I said when I joined this program, is the fact that at least one group of people, or two groups in terms of ethnicity, were willing to shift and move. Whether another group is willing to do that for the good of the country, that I think is something that we have to be concerned about. The other matter is, and I wear my transparency cap here. As observers, we were concerned about the fact that Commonwealth citizens could vote. Yes, it is in the Constitution and what have you, but we were concerned whether they were resident and domiciled as the law requires them to be. We were concerned that there was only one document that you need to go into GCOM, a birth certificate, and see that I am who I say I am, and register. Even when you're applying for a passport, you need a birth certificate and somebody in the community to sign for you, saying, "I know this man to be Enrico Wilford, and therefore he can register." So we need to strengthen our systems, and we need to be a lot more data driven. We have people who are dead, including late family members of mine, who are still on the list 10 years later. 7 years later. We have to work to get that right. Um, so those were some of my concerns, and I think going forward, the country has to work on building consensus. We now have four groups: the PPP, the APNU, WIM, and Forward Guyana Movement in the National Assembly. And we need to work together with all of them to make sure the country moves forward. If I could if you could forgive the pun, Amanda and Niger.
Nigel and Amanza, as far as the Guyanese citizens, the aftermath of the elections, what kind of temperature, what kind of pulse you get from the people? What's the feeling of the Guyanese citizens right now? You could go, Nigel.
Thank you, and I trust that you can hear me clearly. One, in Linden, where I reside, Region 10, there's an expectation of repercussions, and that in itself is unfortunate. The general theme and feel of the people here is that because they didn't vote for the PPP, worse, because they voted overwhelmingly for Win, according to what GCOM have released, they expect a backlash. They expect that they'll be treated unjustly. And once that happens in any society, then distrust becomes the prevailing factor and that reality. And so even when I travel across the other part, I plan on traveling around the nation for us to have a feel and conversations with people to know what is on their mind. The PPP supporters have begun with the triumphalist nature and say, well, we beat you and you have to accept this. That kind of attitude wouldn't lend itself to national development that's in any way wholesome for Guyana. So, JR, what I can say is that the fact that I'm living in this country and as a 51-year-old man, I can see Guyanese saying that they expect essentially to be ill-treated by an administration because they didn't vote for them speaks to disaster. And as Enrico rightly said, I hope that we do not have the experience of those in Nepal. I would love to never see that. But we have to be realistic that people cannot have their backs against the wall forever and do nothing about it.
Amansa, your thoughts about the Guyanese citizens in the aftermath of the elections. What is the pulse you're getting from them?
You know, like both Enrico and Nigel said, we have work to do. I completely agree with Nigel on the issue of triumphalism and the way that is prevalent. Deeply concerning that we are already seeing persons being singled out, transferred to remote locations, etc. So that has already begun to happen. The disconnect or the apparent disconnect between Irfan Ali's messaging about all Guyanese being included, but what is happening on the ground, it could not be more evident and more obvious. And so there's going to have to be a curbing of that type of attitude if Guyanese are going to move forward and work together. You do not achieve national unity by capitulation. It does not. It does not happen. And so that will be the challenge for the PPP government to foster a truly inclusive democracy going forward. It looks like our institutions actually functioning. It looks like Parliament actually meeting. It looks like consulting with the leader of the opposition as is constitutionally required. And so this is going to be a litmus test, because I will say this, that Irfan Ali's inauguration speech sounded as if he was not in government before. So I hope that now when I stand in the National Assembly, I'll actually be able to say the word corruption, because as you know, that was previously banned by the speaker. And so you will expect that we will hold their feet to the fire. The people of Guyana, however, are in great fear and in great trepidation because of this triumphalist approach that they fear, and they fear repercussions. And it is important, therefore, that we continue to speak out, continue to advocate, but at all times, we have to move forward, and we have to be able to work together to forge consensus. So, JR, thank you for allowing us the platform to do just that.
Well, so here's the thing. As we get ready to close out, we must talk about everything that's current. Can we get an update on the shooting victim, Lolita Calendar, social media personality and star in Guyana? Is there anything that we could inform our audience about Lola Doll? Enrico?
I'm not on the ground there, as I said, so I can't update you on that.
Nigel, is there anything you could inform our audience about? We're talking about a social media star in Lola Doll, and it has made the news, TMZ, all the news platforms. This was something that was out there. So could you update us? Did we lose Nigel? Oh, no. Are you there, Nigel?
I
Hello?
can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Now we could. Now we could, yeah.
About what were you speaking? I lost connection for a bit.
Oh, we were asking the one thing that we want to do here, as you have listeners from across the diaspora, and we also have Gen Zers that are on board. This Lolita Calendar, known as Lola Doll,
Yes.
we know that she was shot up a few days ago. Is there an update? Is there anything that you could tell our audience about this social media star and artist?
Well, for one, the police have got two individuals, as far as I'm aware, in custody regarding her medical status. I am very cautious about speaking to that because the sensitivity of Guyanese that seem to have been, even in the medical field, is somewhat lost. When a doctor can rush to say that somebody who had been um, a victim of an attempted assassination, he could list all that happened to her, what didn't happen, it's just insane. Because I believe that we should look at the safety of the individuals about to be moved to X location. And so we live in a reality in Ghana that is quite unusual, I must say, putting it mildly. But I do hope that justice will be served in the situation and that doctor as well will be dealt with. So I'm very cautious as to speaking to the medical status of Lolita, but I must say that the two individuals who are in custody, those who are saying that they're innocent, and persons, of course, become social media judges to say who's innocent and who's guilty. What we do know is that we do not have absolute confidence in the Ghana police force's ability to solve this crime. And we also know for sure that should they have their hand on who did it, that person, should they make one phone call if they're in the right circles, they may end up like the situation with Adriana Young, where nothing happens for quite a long time.
Thank you, Nigel. I don't know if the professor has left us. We are over the time, but listen, this was a very important conversation. Professor, we're going to wrap up now. I would like your closing remarks, but I think there's Dr. Wilshire from the Hero organization, who is also, yes, she is here. Heroes organization that does a lot in the community and in Guyana. Dr. Wilshire, quickly, could you tell us a little bit about the organization? You only have 2 minutes. When is your event?
Yes.
And I think that you've just met Mansa Walton Desir for Guyana Movement, Enrico, and Nigel London. And when you go to Guyana, you need to connect with these folks. So this is our PSA segment. So could you go ahead? 2 minutes.
Yes, just 2 minutes. So quickly, thank you so much for having me on. I'm not sure if you can still hear or see me. Let me
I can
know.
still hear you. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Yes. So, and I'm so happy to meet everyone on the panel. So, I am here to just tell you all about this amazing event that Hero is going to have on September 20th. So, we're going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary. So, Hero means Health Educational Relief Organization. And so, for the past 25 years, Hero has been providing medical and surgical and educational services in Guyana and some other Caribbean countries for free. And so the mission is really to provide healthcare to those who are in need. And I mean, many Guyanese people have their lives have been impacted by all the work that we've been doing, especially for the surgery team. For a month, the educational team goes into various villages and work with students there. We go into villages and, we see patients for their medical conditions. So we're going to celebrate that at this masquerade ball that we're going to have at Terrace on the Park in Queens on Saturday. On the 20th. So if anyone who would like to come, we would love for everyone to come and support us. We still have some seats available that you'll be able to come. You can check our website, it's heroglobal.org for more information. So we're going to have a really great show. We're going to have a good time, but the real goal of the event is to celebrate and show some thankfulness to our supporters for the past 25 years, but also we're looking forward to the next 25 years, and we need support from all of you for us to be able to continue the good work that we've been doing, not only in Guyana, but all the other countries, for people who are in need. So thank you again for allowing me to be on. And whoever is interested, please go to our website, heroglobal.org, and we'll love to have you all at our event. And hopefully, JR, you'll be there too. And hopefully next year, Miss Amanda and Nigel can join us. I know Professor Griffith, he can also join, so hopefully he'll join us this time.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and try to put a plug in there. Of course, I'm gonna be there, and I've been trying to assist Hero in getting the mayor to stop through. So listen, you just never know. The mayor is between things, but I think he just might attend. So you could say JR said it wasn't Hero, it's JR. All right, so
So you guys heard it from JR. The mayor might be there too.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilshire. Okay, so we're going to close out now. We're going to start with Enrico, followed by Nigel, Amanda, and then, of course, Dr. Griffith. Your closing remarks today, Enrico.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The concern right now, from my perspective, is that Guyana needs to move forward as a collective. And since we have all these parties now in parliament, it becomes imperative that the ruling party, the government, works with as many persons as possible, including persons in civil society, to move the country from where it is. I said the reason we talk about one Guyana is because we think that there are two, three, four, or five. We would not be advocating if we were one to begin with. So that is one of the challenges that we have. And I believe another challenge is that the country as a whole cannot depend on listening to a side that refers to people as 5 more years on them. Who are them? You know, it's a matter of governing for all of us. And again, we cannot take positions like that, and we have to adjust, amend, and upgrade our laws, including this thing about Commonwealth citizens being resident and domiciled, including our data management, and we have myriad problems to solve. So we've got to get cracking.
Thank you so much, Enrico. Enrico, we want you to come back. There are a lot of things that will be happening within the next couple of weeks, so we want to stay in touch. Uh, Nigel, again, congratulations to the Ford Guyana movement. Your closing remarks for today.
Thank you so much, JR. And I must say that I'm certainly grateful. We are grateful to all Guyanese who would have taken the not a risk, but the responsibility to choose us to represent you in the House of Assembly. We're certainly grateful to the People's Progressive Party and all other parties involved in reference to being in the House of Assembly. It is our desire to really ensure that there is unity demonstrated in leadership first. To Irfan Ali, hopefully this time you'll be able to function as an independent individual with the ability to serve as president and not a de facto leader being over you. And that is being said with utmost hope. We know that Ghana has to function in relation to our constitution being upheld, and in many instances being, as the man sort of rightly said, being amended to accommodate the reality we now face. We are a different nation, and we cannot utilize that old system. Finally, I would like to say that it's my hope that the Ghana Elections Commission is completely reformed and that Guyanese have got confidence reposed in that same entity to function the way it should. We cannot have another electoral cycle, soon to be local government elections with the same body of people, the same ridiculous voters list, and the same disingenuous leaders serving in any capacity. I do thank you all.
Thank you, Nigel. Amanza Walton Desir. Again, congratulations. Amanza, your alumni has will be celebrating 40 years here in New York.
40 years.
Yes, here in New York City. So more power to
Yes.
you, more power to President's College. Your closing
Yes.
remarks. Your closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, JR, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be able to um, sit here and talk with you. It's particularly important, these avenues, because so far, by and large, well, not by and large, so far we have been, as opposition parties, shut out from state media. And so our message generally depends on platforms like yourself, on Enrico Wolford, and those independent broadcasters who really are interested in people getting all sides of the story. I'll say this: Guyana has before it a golden opportunity that requires the participation of every single Guyanese. And to the degree that the PPPC government continues to practice exclusion, triumphalism, and division, is the degree to which they will undermine our development. I am not sure how it is that they find the time to engage in this level of in the level of pettiness that we've seen so far, given the developmental challenges that we have, given the fact that we need all hands on deck to approach this nation, to develop this nation rather. And so that is the approach that we will be taking, moving forward, going forward, that we will advocate for competence, for integrity, for transparency, and accountability in governance, because that is the cornerstone of developing this nation. We have a future ahead of us like none other. But whether we are able to create that future, whether we are able to keep this republic, will be up to us, will be up to our citizens. I want to encourage our citizens, our Guyanese citizens, to soak up information, learn, understand, because informed citizens make informed decisions. And we are entering into a time where we're going to have advanced citizenship participation if we're going to change the system. And so I look forward. I am excited about the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead for this great nation. And of course, JR, grateful to the people who have put their trust in Forward Guyana movement. And we will do our best. We will give it our all to vindicate their trust in us in the coming days and years. And thank you for having us on today.
Well, it's my honor. I feel like it's a privilege to be able to pick up the phone and call you and call Nigel, and you responding by saying, "Sure, Chair, I'll be on. I will always do my part." Listen, I truly appreciate that. I just want to connect with the other parties as well, and the other journalists in Guyana, because, if we have to grow together. That's what this is all about. I know that Melania Cordes, one of the panelists, was supposed to come on. She wanted to congratulate you. I don't know if she's there. I don't know if she's backstage. If she is, you could bring her into the forefront, or if not, Donatella, your closing remarks. And we've gone over the time. Donatella, you're here. Your closing remarks, only 2 minutes, Donatella.
No, I feel like you want to say 30 seconds. This show was packed with so much vital